Hi guys, this is Hero, and today I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be making a video on the Mars transit into Aries. Okay, so this transit occurs from June 26th to August 10th, okay, of this year, 2022. Now, this transit is about 6 weeks in length, which is pretty typical for a Mars transit. Okay, so the speed is relatively normal for Mars transiting a sign. I think the speed of transits is something that I'm personally going to kind of discuss a little bit more in these videos, and I would encourage you all to look at a little bit more, because the speed of a planet throughout a certain transit, it definitely impacts its effects and results, okay? So the speed is normal here. Now, what do we know about Mars? So we know that it owns Aries and Scorpio, right? And Mars also throws a fourth and an eighth aspect. Now, Mars is the only planet that when it's in one of its signs, it also fully aspects the other one. Okay, so when Mars is in Aries, it fully throws an aspect on the Scorpio, its eighth sign, because Mars is an eighth aspect. Okay, so that's one thing to just keep in mind here while I describe this video. Another thing is that Mars gets debilitated in Cancer. So also when it's in Aries, not only does it fully aspect its own sign of Scorpio, but it fully aspects its fourth sign, the fourth sign of Cancer. Okay, so it's in its own sign, it aspects its debilitation sign, and it aspects its other sign that it owns. Okay, now Mars's fourth and eighth aspect are two completely very different aspects, which I'll discuss in a minute. But if you notice, 4 and 8 are both like moksha or water energies, you can say. Okay, this is very big, because when people think of Mars, they don't think of this side of Mars. Okay, they just think of the more Aries part of Mars, right? Which is like, you know, the impulsive, aggressive, getting stuff done part of Mars, which is great because Mars, its preferred sign is Aries and its primary focus is Aries, but it also does have that strong Scorpio energies as well that people don't consider, okay? But this is why Mars owns a water and a fire sign, okay? And when Mars is in the Aries sign, it aspects two water signs, okay? But I'll go ahead and get started on this video. Now, we know, right, like I said, Mars is in Aries here, right? So Aries kind of represents what? It's the first sign of the zodiac. So it represents getting stuff going, you can say. Okay, this is why Mars, because it owns Aries, it's the most unpredictable planet. Okay, people coin it as a malefic, and it is a malefic to a certain extent, depending on what your ideology is of a malefic. Okay, any planet can be malefic in certain situations, and any planet can be benefic in certain situations, depending on the situations and depending on which circumstances you deem as benefic and malefic. Okay, but all that aside, so this is kind of why. This is kind of what Aries represents, right? Getting stuff done, and this is why Mars owns Aries. Now, when Mars is in Aries, okay, this is really big because, like I said, it's in Aries, but it also aspects Scorpio. Okay, so what does Scorpio represent? Scorpio, at a gist, yeah, you might have heard all this stuff about Scorpio, and all that may or may not be true. But Scorpio, at a general sense, represents what? Intuition. Okay, you need intuition before you move on to the Sagittarius to Pisces zone of things. Okay, the Saturn and Jupiter signs, which represent, spiritual enlightenment, moksha, and karmic fulfillment, and either for yourself or for others. Okay, but Scorpio comes right before those four. Okay, so Scorpio represents, like I said, intuition. Okay, so the planet of intuition and getting stuff done is in its own sign of not getting stuff done. The planet of intuition and getting things going is in the sign of getting things going, and it aspects Scorpio. Right now, you might be wondering, okay, why is Mars the only planet that when it's in Aries it aspects Scorpio? Right. The reason is because of this. Sagittarius and Pisces are, like, you guys hear me talk about this in my videos a lot, right? That belt, that last four signs of the zodiac is super, super, super important, especially from a spiritual level, okay? Right before that, like I said, is Scorpio, and right after that is Aries, okay? Aries is the first sign that kind of gets everything started, and the eighth sign of Scorpio is kind of the sign that governs all intuition in general, okay? So both of these energies are really, really, really important to work in harmony, okay? And here's what I mean by this. If you look at the sign cycles, 1 through 12, Mars is the planet that has its two signs the farthest apart, okay? If you look at 1 through 12, Okay, for example, Venus 2 through 7, not quite as far. Jupiter 9 through 12, not quite as far. Okay, Mars it goes quite a long way, and it's really important. Why? Because the first sign is the first sign getting everything started, and the eighth sign is intuition, which it's right before the Sagittarius to Pisces kind of zone, right? So when Mars is in Aries, it needs to keep in mind Scorpio's agenda when it starts doing stuff. Okay, it's a little trippy, but this is kind of just how Mars is in general. Okay, it's often very misunderstood, and like I said, this is just my own opinion. You can feel free to do your own research or believe whatever you want. But so that's kind of that as a whole, right? So when Mars is in Aries, it aspects Scorpio because while it does makes the changes it kind of needs to make, or kind of gets going in the direction it needs to get going. Ideally, you want to gain intuition from that, and kind of keep intuitive factors involved when making new changes. Okay, so this is kind of why it's there. But like I said, Mars here, it primarily has the focus on making the changes. Okay, so during this transit, you will definitely feel, and like I said, when Mars in Aries is the most underlooked transit, I think, like of all time. Okay, like when it's in Aries, you'll definitely notice some changes occurring in your life. Okay, now where those changes are, just look at where Aries is in your chart. Okay, I guarantee you those changes will occur in that house. Disclaimer, after it passes your ascendant degrees. Okay, because let's just say your ascendant degrees is at the, like, let's just say you are a Sagittarius rising person, right? And you have your ascendant at 10 degrees. So that means Aries is in your fifth house. But that fifth house of Aries doesn't start till about 10 degrees, right? So Mars will give more strong fifth house aspects after about 10 degrees. And before that, it'll give some fifth and some fourth house effects, okay? This is a little bit of a side topic, but just kind of explaining that as a whole, right? So you'll definitely notice strong changes of whatever house Aries is in your chart, right? And also wherever Scorpio is in your chart, you'll notice a little bit of kind of intuitive wisdom that comes in, okay, related to that area. Okay, you notice that too. Okay, you'll realize it a lot stronger. Why? Because like I said, when Mars is in Aries, it fully aspects Scorpio. Okay, so not only does it own Scorpio, it aspects it as well. Okay, just something to keep that in mind here. Now, Mars throws a fourth aspect onto Cancer. Okay, and I could almost make this as a general Mars and Aries video, but I'm gonna kind of get to the details of this transit in a little bit. But there's just not as many prominent details you can say, so I'm just discussing more in general Mars and Aries. So Mars throws a fourth aspect on Cancer, right? And Cancer, as we know, is its debilitation sign. Now, why is Cancer its debilitation sign, and why does when Mars is in Aries, it throws an aspect on Cancer as well? Well, as we know, Aries is kind of making changes, right? But it's more making changes for you, right? It's getting things going. That's why, Aries is the number one sign, right? And the number one house is all about yourself. So when Mars in Aries and it's making all these changes for you, it's not really thinking about how to nurture others, which is what Cancer represents, right? This is why Mars is debilitating Cancer. This is also why Mars throws a fourth aspect onto Cancer when it's in Aries, because that area is really hampered. So you'll notice that not only is, I guess you can say, you're like, I wouldn't say ability to look out for others, but just your Cancerian energy of just nurturing others, it'll be a little bit more frustrated, okay? And you'll notice wherever Cancer is in your chart, the house that Cancer has will also undergo some frustrations a little bit stronger than usual, right? Because Mars is throwing that fourth aspect onto its debilitation sign. It's not just any blind fourth aspect, okay? Like I said, when Mars in Aries is very strong and underlooked, okay? This is like the planet that owns the first sign is in the first sign. This is like changes getting going galore, okay? And like I said, when that happens, your intuition gets increased, because the more changes you're making, the more your intuition is kind of ramped up. And when that happens, you're not necessarily focused on nurturing or looking out for others. And if you are, it's that area is kind of gonna go a lot of frustration, okay? One other thing I want to mention real quick is that Rahu is with Mars, right? So we kind of want to be aware of Rahu's temptation when it comes to Mars, okay? Especially when it comes to getting frustrated at others. Why? Because Mars is still throwing that fourth aspect on Cancer, okay? So we don't want to let the Rahu influence Mars any more than it needs to and kind of overblow frustrations, okay? Also, Mars throws an eighth aspect on Scorpio, right? So we want to ideally tap into those intuitive energies when it comes to making a change, not listen to Rahu. Okay, so Mars is kind of going to want to make all these changes. Rahu's going to try to play its little game and influence Mars, but we want to let the intuitive energies of Scorpio kind of guide the changes Mars needs to make, rather than the intuitive, spiritual, higher conscious energies, rather than the Rahu materialistic energies of doing stuff for the wrong reasons, I guess you can say. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Rahu's there, and it will you'll definitely feel the effects of this picking up throughout the middle or the end of this transit. Okay, like after mid-July. One other thing is that Jupiter is in Pisces in an aspect Scorpio, and Saturn for most of this transit, I believe the first 75% of this transit is in Aquarius aspecting Scorpio. Okay, so Jupiter's in Pisces throwing a ninth aspect on Scorpio, and Saturn is in Aquarius throwing a 10th aspect on Scorpio. Okay, both of these are, when Jupiter's one side ahead of Saturn, wherever Jupiter's ninth and Saturn's 10th aspect is a huge karmic area in general. Okay, so that's Scorpio. So Mars being in Aries and also throwing an eighth aspect on Scorpio, all three of the outer planets are throwing an aspect on Scorpio. Okay, this is no joke. So this means there's a lot of intuition, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of, I guess you can say, karmic duty involved in gaining intuition. Okay, you have natural more intuition because Mars is throwing an aspect on Scorpio. You have more wisdom, and you have more I guess you can say karmic duty, right? And between, after Scorpio and before Aries, it's Jupiter and Saturn that own all those signs. Okay, so when those two are aspecting Scorpio, it's like your intuition is coming in for a very higher spiritual purpose. Okay, so this can also help fight, I guess you can say, the energies that Rahu is trying to convince Mars to do. Okay, so this is great. Why? Because you are able to see the really strong side that Rahu's trying to show, because it's with Mars, right? So it's like Mars and Rahu. Rahu can really blow Mars out of proportion. Or you can use those three aspects of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn on Scorpio to gain more intuition and realize, hey, you know what? I really feel the negative energies of Rahu, but I really feel this is what's going to be best for, gaining my intuition and, connection to higher consciousness as much as possible. Okay. So it's going to be on you to do these two things. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Other details you got to look at your chart about this. Okay. But you'll feel the energies of Rahu a lot, and you'll feel the energies of these three planets throwing an aspect on Scorpio, and try to guide Mars in the right way. Okay. It's up to you on what to do. Okay, just one other last quick thing I want to say before I close out this video is that Mars throws a fourth aspect on Cancer. So it's going to affect that area. Now, throughout this transit, Mercury first goes through Cancer. I don't know the exact dates, but I know Mercury first goes through Cancer. Sun almost makes its way through the end of, throughout Cancer from after July 15th, and Venus, I guess you can say throughout August, enters Cancer also. Okay, so you could feel stronger Cancer energies because these planets are entering this sign, and Mars could throw frustration on those planets' energies as well as they're in there. But this can be a great opportunity. Why? Because Mercury, Sun, and Venus in that order kind of represents, I guess you can say, a lot of things we care about at a material level. Okay, so Mercury, rational intelligence, Sun, ego, and Venus, your enjoyment. When they enter Cancer, these three things respectively are undergoing Cancerian energies, right? So your rational intelligence is going to be focused on nurturing, your ego is going to be focused on nurturing, and your enjoyment is going to be focusing on nurturing when these kind of enter respectively, or however they're combined. But because Mars is throwing that fourth aspect on Cancer, just understand that there could be some frustration there, but that doesn't necessarily mean when these planets are there to just run away from nurturing, okay? It just means that to just accept, I guess you can say, the feeling of anger, and just accept that there's always going to be frustrations in anything that you want and need to do, and to just keep it going from there. Okay, that was I would say is my top advice for that last piece of those planets entering Cancer as well, while Mars throws a fourth aspect on its debilitation sign of Cancer. Okay, just accept anger, accept frustration, accept the fact that these energies will always be there, and just do whatever you feel like you have to or need to or even want to do to an extent as far as those Cancer energy goes, or as far as the energies of whatever house Cancer is in your chart. Okay, so I think that's all for this video. If you have any comments or questions, you guys can let me know, and as until next time, talk to you guys later. Thank you.